Hello everyone, and welcome to the third video of the Angular Portfolio website course. In this video, we will be creating our Angular project as well as reviewing the project files. In the previous video, we had set up our development environment. In our terminal window, we can double check we have everything we need by typing ng version. We have Angular version 15.2.4 and Node version 18.10. Before we create our project, go ahead and navigate to a directory that you want the project to be contained in. I have a folder called Web Apps within my Documents folder. Feel free to create a similar folder or navigate to a folder that makes sense for you. Once you have done that, we can create a new Angular project by typing ng new Angular Portfolio website. Angular Portfolio website will be the name of the project as well as the name of the folder that will contain our project files. Go ahead and press enter. It will ask us if we want to include Angular routing. We're going to select yes. The next question is asking what style sheet format we would like to use. CSS will be selected by default, and we want to stick with that, so let's press enter. It will then continue to initialize the project. This may take a few minutes, so I will skip ahead to when it's done. Now that it's done, let's click on the Explorer tab at the top left to find our project files. If you don't see these files, you might still need to open the containing folder. This can be done by clicking on File, then Open Folder, and from there you can navigate to the newly created project. Once you see these files, the first one we're going to take a look at is index.html. As mentioned earlier, Angular will serve single-page applications. What this means is that the entirety of our website will be contained within this index.html file. Upon first glance, everything looks pretty standard. The only thing that may look unfamiliar is this app root tag. App root is a reference to the component that will be containing our Angular application. You can think of this as the entry point into our Angular app. We can find the app component by expanding the app folder. There are several files, but the one we want is app component HTML. This file contains the default CSS and HTML placeholder code that is generated with any new Angular project. This is what will be displayed when we run our project. Let's go ahead and run our project now. In the terminal, type ngserve and press enter. This will start building our application. I am currently running the finished version of the project on port 4200, which is why I'm getting this question. You, on the other hand, shouldn't get this question since you're most likely not running any other Angular projects at the moment. But because I am, I will say yes. When it's finished, it will provide this link that we can use to navigate to our website that's running locally. Your link should be pointing to localhost 4200, so don't worry if it's different from mine. Go ahead and navigate to this URL now. This is the default template that is provided by Angular, and this is the result of the placeholder code that we just saw in the app component HTML file. Since this is all just placeholder content, we're not planning on keeping it, so we can get rid of it. Go ahead and select everything and press delete. For now, let's add an h1 tag that contains hello world. If we take a look back at our website, we now see that it just says hello world. If your Angular app was visible while you were making this change, you may have noticed it updating in real time. This is due to Angular's hot reload feature. This means that as we make changes to our website like we did just now, the project will update and reload in the browser in real time. This feature makes it convenient for us to rapidly make changes to our front end and see those changes reflected without having to rerun our project every time. Let's go back to our project. And let's take a look at some of the files in the app folder. Let's click on app component ts. The app component file is one of 3 files that makes up the app root component. Before we go further, let's talk about what components are in Angular. To keep it simple, an Angular component is what is used to build the different sections of a website. So for example, if we take a look at the finished portfolio website, every different part of this website is a component. The header up here is a component. The navigation bar is a component. If we click on the portfolio tab, for example, all of these projects are being generated from the same component. And this example demonstrates the main benefit that we get with components. Instead of having to write out the HTML for each of these projects manually, components allow us to create a generic HTML template. And from there, we can insert that component into our site as many times as we need to. In this case, we've inserted this component for each sample project. Going back to the app root component. The app root component is unique in the sense that instead of representing just one part of our website, this component is what we will use to house all the other components. This will start to make more sense later on as we start to add more components to our project. The app component file, like mentioned before, is one of 3 files that make up a component. The other files that make up a component are the template file and the CSS style sheet. The template file is what we use to define the HTML for a given component. For the app root component, this is the file that we just removed the placeholder code from. The associated style sheet, in our case app component CSS, is where we can define custom CSS styling for a given component. Right now, we have nothing in here, but if we were to add styling, those CSS classes would only apply to this app root component. The styles.css file here is what we would use if we wanted to define CSS styling globally for our project. And lastly, the app component file is what is used to provide functionality to a component, as well as pass data to the HTML template. We can demonstrate passing data to the HTML template by using the title variable that was generated by default. If we go to our template file, we can replace hello world with the value of that variable by typing title within 2 sets of curly braces. Typing 2 sets of curly braces allows for interpolation, which is a feature of Angular that allows for us to insert data from a variable within our component file into the HTML template. Now, if we go back to our site, our H1 tag now displays the text Angular portfolio website because that's the string value of our title variable. The last part of a component is the selector. The selector is what is used to identify our different components. The selector for this component is approot, and that's what is used to reference this component in index.html. Hopefully, you now have a better understanding of Angular components. But if you are still a little unsure of what components are and how they work, don't worry, as we will be diving into components more in depth later on. The next file we're going to look at is the app module file. This file is broken up into a few distinct parts. The declaration section will contain all of the components that we generate for this project. The import section defines any modules that we have imported into our project. This will be useful as we bring in modules for additional functionality in our project. The declarations and imports are the only 2 things that we will modify in this file. We don't need to worry about providers and Bootstrap for now. The last file we are going to look at is angular.json. This file tells our project where to find a lot of necessary files, as well as set some configurations. Later on, we may modify a few things here, but for the most part, you won't need to worry about anything in this file. That covers everything that we're going to look at in this video. There are of course other files that we haven't looked at yet, but we'll go over those in the future videos as we need them. In the next video, we're going to go over how to install Bootstrap into our project. Feel free to click on the video in the middle of the screen now to continue along to the next video in the course. Thanks for watching.